Hollywood sells the world the dream. It promises fame, fortune, admiration, and the opportunity to become something larger than life. Every year, thousands of people arrive in LA hoping to see their names in lights. They imagine premieres, awards, magazine covers, and the chance to tell stories that will be remembered for generations. But behind that dream is a system that's built on extraordinary power. Studios control access. Producers control financing. Directors control sets. Agents control opportunities. Executives can decide who becomes a star, who remains invisible, and whose career quietly disappears. For the fortunate, Hollywood can provide a life beyond anything they imagined. For others, the same system can become a trap. Throughout Hollywood's history, performers have been described as being controlled through contracts, intimidated by powerful executives, placed in unsafe working conditions, sexually harassed, assaulted, or pressured into remaining silent. Some fought back and changed the industry. Others lost their careers, and some lost their lives. Today we're examining 10 disturbing cases involving performers who were exploited, abused, endangered, or placed at the mercy of people and institutions far more powerful than they were. Now, some of these stories involve allegations that were never fully tested in court. I'll make sure to let you know when that's the case. Other cases involve public court decisions, criminal convictions, or fatal accidents documented through official investigations. Together, these stories reveal something much larger than the actions of a single individual. They reveal what could happen when fame, money, and unchecked authority become more important than human beings. This is the hidden cost of the Hollywood dream. Long before the modern entertainment industry, Hollywood was controlled by the studio system. During the 30s and 40s, major studios didn't simply produce and distribute movies. They controlled nearly every stage of an actor's career. Performers were placed under long-term contracts, studios selected their roles, shaped their public images, and decided where they would work. Actors who refused assignments would be suspended without pay. Studios could then attempt to add that suspension time to the end of a performer's contract. The result was a system in which an actor could theoretically remain trapped beyond the 7 years originally written into the agreement. One of these performers that was caught in the system was Olivia de Havilland. Havilland signed with Warner Brothers in 1930 and quickly became one of Hollywood's most recognizable actresses. She appeared in major productions and starred alongside Errol Flynn in films including Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. She was talented, popular, and valuable to the studio, but she was also frustrated. Havilland wanted more serious and challenging roles. Warner Brothers frequently assigned her characters she considered repetitive or beneath her ability. When she rejected certain parts, the studio would suspend her, and these suspensions were not merely punishments that prevented her from working. Warner Brothers also attempted to add that time to the end of her contract. By 1943, Havilland had reached a breaking point. Rather than accept the studio's control, she sued Warner Brothers. And this was an enormous risk. The major studios possessed tremendous influence. Challenging one could result in professional retaliation, blacklisting, and the destruction of the actor's career. Havilland nevertheless argued that California law limited personal service contracts to 7 calendar years. Warner Brothers argued that periods of suspension should not count towards those 7 years. In 1944, the California Court of Appeal ruled in Havilland's favor. The court determined that the 7-year limit meant 7 calendar years. A studio could not extend an actor's contract indefinitely by repeatedly suspending that performer. The ruling became associated with what is now commonly called the de Havilland Law. Its importance extended far beyond one actress. The decision weakened the old studio system's ability to control performers and gave actors greater freedom to negotiate their own careers. Havilland had confronted one of the most powerful institutions in Hollywood and won, but victories against powerful systems rarely come without consequences. Her legal battle disrupted her career, and she risked becoming untouchable to other studios. Yet she continued working and eventually won 2 Academy Awards for Best Actress. Olivia de Havilland was not abused in the same way as we're going to talk about many other people on today's list. Others who also spoke out about Hollywood. Her story involved institutional control. A corporation attempted to control her labor, her career, and her future through a contract that could be extended whenever she resisted. Her case demonstrated that exploitation in Hollywood did not always happen behind a locked door. Sometimes it was written directly into the system. And although de Havilland survived that system, other performers would face dangers with far more devastating consequences. Brandon Lee was born into a famous family. His father, Bruce Lee, became one of the most influential martial artists and film stars in history. But Brandon did not want to live only in his father's shadow. By the early 1990s, he was beginning to build an identity of his own. His breakthrough opportunity arrived in The Crow, a dark supernatural film based on the comic book series created by James O'Barr. Lee played Eric Draven, a murdered musician who returns from the dead to avenge himself and his fiancée. The role was physically demanding, emotionally intense, and perfectly suited for Lee's abilities. It was also expected to make him a major star. Instead, The Crow became the final film of his life. On March 31st, 1993, the production was filming a scene in which Lee's character would be shot. A revolver used during the film contained a dangerous obstruction. Dummy ammunition was previously been prepared for the weapon, but during the process, part of the projectile became lodged inside of the barrel, and later, a blank cartridge was loaded into the same gun. Although a blank cartridge does not contain a conventional bullet, it still creates explosive force. When the weapon was fired, that force propelled the lodged projectile from the barrel, and Brandon Lee was struck in his abdomen. At first, members of the crew reportedly believed he was performing the scene, but Lee did not get up. He was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery, but the doctors couldn't save him. Brandon Lee died at the age of 28. The death was not the result of an actor taking an unavoidable creative risk. It was a preventable workplace tragedy. The functioning chain of professional safety procedures should have prevented live projectiles, damaged dummy rounds, or dangerous obstructions from remaining inside of a prop weapon. Lee's mother, Linda Lee Cadwell, filed a lawsuit against parties connected to the production, alleging negligence. The case was later resolved through undisclosed settlements. No criminal charges were ultimately brought. The filmmakers completed The Crow using rewriting, body doubles, and visual effects. The movie released in '94 and became a commercial and cultural success. Audiences watched the performance that might have transformed Brandon Lee into one of the defining stars of his generation. He never saw the finished film. His death became one of the most infamous examples of Hollywood's failure to protect a performer on set. Productions involve heavy machinery, explosives, vehicles, weapons, fire, and complicated stunts. The illusion of danger is frequently created through real equipment that must be handled by qualified professionals. When budgets, deadlines, or convenience take priority over safety, the consequences can become irreversible. Brandon Lee was not destroyed by scandal or public humiliation. He was failed by a workplace that had a responsibility to protect him. 10 years before his death, another Hollywood production had already demonstrated how deadly that failure could become. Vic Morrow was a veteran actor who had worked in film and television for decades. In 1982, he joined the production of Twilight Zone, the movie, an anthology film inspired by the classic television series. Morrow appeared in a segment directed by John Landis. The sequence included an elaborated nighttime scene involving explosions, a helicopter, and 2 child actors. The children were both 6 and 7 years old. During filming on July 23, 1982, Morrow carried the children through shallow water while fireworks and different effects of the sort exploded around them. A helicopter hovered above the scene. The explosions damaged the aircraft and caused the pilot to lose control. The helicopter crashed directly into the performers. Vic and both children were killed. The horror of the accident was intensified by what the investigators discovered about the production. Questions emerged about the dangerous placement of the helicopter, the use of the pyrotechnics, and the conditions under which the children had been hired. The children were reportedly working at night in circumstances that raised serious concerns about violations of child labor regulations. The tragedy became one of the most closely examined on-set disasters in Hollywood history. Director John Landis and 4 other members of the production were charged with involuntary manslaughter. The criminal trial began years after the accident and became a landmark case. It was exceptionally rare for a Hollywood director to face criminal charges over a death of a performer during a production. The prosecution argued that the defendants had created dangerous conditions and ignored obvious risks. The defense maintained that the crash was a terrible accident that could not have been reasonably predicted. In 1987, the defendants were acquitted. The acquittal meant that the jury did not find the defendants criminally responsible beyond a reasonable doubt. It did not erase the circumstances that led to the deaths. Civil claims brought by the victims' families were resolved separately. The accident forced Hollywood to confront its approach to stunts, aviation, pyrotechnics, and the employment of children. Safety procedures were reviewed and production practices had been changed. But those changes arrived after 3 people were already dead. The Twilight Zone tragedy exposed a central contradiction in the film industry. Hollywood celebrates directors for pursuing ambitious visions. It praises productions for pushing boundaries and creating images that audiences have never seen before. But no creative vision should require performers to surrender their right to return home safely. Vic, Micah, and Renee were not special effects. They were human beings being placed in dangerous environments by adults and institutions responsible for protecting them. Their deaths became a permanent warning about what happens when the pursuit of a shot becomes more important than the people standing in front of the camera. Hollywood's failures, however, are not limited to physical safety. For decades, many performers have described another kind of danger: powerful individuals who allegedly use professional opportunities to obtain private access to vulnerable actors. Few cases expose that system more dramatically than the allegations surround Harvey Weinstein. In the mid-1990s, Gwyneth Paltrow was a young actress approaching the beginning of her career. She was cast in Emma, a Miramax production that would help establish her as one of Hollywood's rising stars. Harvey Weinstein was one of the most powerful producers in the entertainment industry. Through Miramax, Weinstein helped finance and distribute critically acclaimed films. His company became famous for aggressive award campaigns and for turning independent productions into major cultural events. For a young actress, his approval could open doors across the industry. His disapproval could potentially close them. In 2017, Paltrow publicly described an encounter she said occurred when she was 22. According to Paltrow, Weinstein summoned her into a hotel suite for what she believed would be a professional meeting. She said the encounter became inappropriate when Weinstein placed his hands on her and suggested that they move to a bedroom for massages. Paltrow refused and left. She later said that she felt frightened and believed her role in Emma could be taken away. At the time, she was dating Brad Pitt. She told Pitt what happened, and Pitt later confronted Weinstein at a film premiere. According to Paltrow, Weinstein subsequently warned her not to tell anyone else. Paltrow did not publicly reveal the story at that time. The silence illustrates the imbalance at the center of many Hollywood harassment allegations. A young performer may technically have the ability to reject a powerful executive, but the rejection can occur under the threat of unemployment, retaliation, or exclusion from an entire industry. Paltrow continued working with Miramax and eventually starred in Shakespeare in Love, for which she won an Academy Award. Her success does not invalidate her account. It demonstrates the complicated reality of working within a system controlled by people accused of misconduct. Survivors don't always immediately leave the industry, company, or professional relationship. Many remain because their careers, finances, and cultures are tied to the people and institutions involved. Weinstein denied allegations of non-consensual sexual activity. Paltrow's account was not the subject of a separate criminal prosecution, but her willingness to speak publicly became important because it demonstrated that even an actress who ultimately became wealthy, famous, and powerful could once have felt terrified of losing everything. Paltrow's story also connected to another internationally famous actress who said she made a different choice after an encounter with Weinstein. Angelina Jolie was still early in her career when she worked on Playing My Heart, a film distributed by a company connected to Harvey Weinstein. Years later, Jolie said she had experienced unwanted advances from Weinstein during that period. She described it as a bad experience and said she had rejected him. Jolie stated that she then chose never to work with Weinstein again and warned other women about him. Her decisions may appear straightforward from the outside: walk away, refuse future projects, avoid the person responsible. But leaving the relationship with a powerful producer can carry significant professional consequences. Weinstein's companies financed films, distributed major releases, and maintained relationships with agents, publicists, executives, and award organizations throughout Hollywood. Refusing to work with him did not simply mean rejecting one man. It could mean removing yourself from an entire network of opportunity. Jolie, nevertheless, established an extraordinary career independent of Weinstein. She became an Academy Award-winning actress, director, and humanitarian. Her later success gave her the security to speak publicly. Many lesser-known performers do not possess that protection. Jolie's account was never the basis of a criminal case, and Weinstein denied allegations of non-consensual conduct. Her story must therefore be presented as her account of what happened. Yet it remains significant because of what she said and what she did afterward. She avoided him and she warned others. She also carried the memory for years before the Hollywood culture surrounding Weinstein finally changed. The culture did not collapse because of one accusation. It collapsed because women began telling a similar story in numbers that became impossible for the industry to ignore. One of the loudest and most relentless voices belonged to Rose McGowan. Rose McGowan became famous in her films such as Scream and television series Charmed, but behind her public career was an allegation that she had carried for decades. McGowan had alleged that Harvey Weinstein R'd her during the 1997 Sundance Film Festival. According to McGowan, the encounter began as a professional meeting and ended in sexual violence. Weinstein denied allegations of non-consensual sex. The alleged assault was not prosecuted as a criminal case, but McGowan's story became central to the public exposure of Weinstein and the culture that protected him. After the alleged encounter, McGowan reached a financial settlement with Weinstein. The existence of a settlement did not legally establish guilt, nor did it erase McGowan's allegations. Confidential settlements were frequently used in Hollywood and other industries to resolve claims privately while limiting what accusers could publicly discuss. For years, McGowan did not name Weinstein openly. In 2016, she wrote online that she'd been R'd by the head of a movie studio, and later identified Weinstein as the man she was accusing. But the major investigations into Weinstein were published in 2017. McGowan was already speaking in increasingly direct terms. She became one of the most recognized figures associated with the movement that followed. Her activism came at a cost. McGowan had described feeling watched, threatened, and professionally targeted. She later filed a federal lawsuit alleging that Weinstein and others participated in an effort to discredit her and silence her. The racketeering case was ultimately dismissed. A dismissed lawsuit does not prove that every underlying event did not or did happen. It means that the legal claims did not proceed successfully under the requirements of that case. McGowan's public image also became controversial. Her methods, statements, and confrontational style sometimes attracted as much attention as the allegation she was trying to expose. But reducing her story to those controversies risks overlooking the essential point. For years, she said a powerful producer had assaulted her. For years, she believed the system surrounding him was stronger than her voice. When she finally spoke publicly, she did so knowing that every part of her life and personality would be examined. Hollywood often asks why survivors remain silent. McGowan's experience demonstrates what can happen when they speak. Their motives are questioned, their histories are investigated, and their behavior is judged. And the conversation can shift from the alleged actions of the powerful person into the imperfections of the person making the allegation. And there are more actresses that accused Harvey Weinstein of assault. One was Asia Argento. Asia was an Italian actress and filmmaker who worked in both European cinema and international productions. In 2017, she told The New Yorker that Harvey Weinstein sexually assaulted her during the Cannes Film Festival in the 1990s. Argento alleged that she was taken to a hotel room under the impression that she would be attending a professional gathering. Instead, she had found herself alone with Weinstein. She alleged that Weinstein forcibly performed oral on her. Weinstein denied allegations of non-consensual sex. Again, Argento said she did not immediately report the incident. She described fear, shame, and the belief that Weinstein possessed enough influence to damage her career. Her account reflects a pattern described by numerous accusers. A professional meeting allegedly moved into a private hotel environment, a powerful producer controlling the setting, a younger performer faced with the possibility that resisting or reporting him could affect her future. Argento eventually incorporated elements resembling the experience into her 2000 film Scarlet Diva. She didn't publicly identify Weinstein for many years. When she finally did, her story became one of the most widely discussed allegations against him. Her decision to speak out contributed to the global reach of the movement. The allegations against Weinstein were no longer seen only as an American entertainment story. They became part of an international discussion about sexual violence, workplace power, and institutional silence. Argento later became the subject of a separate allegation involving actor Jimmy Bennett, who accused her of SA when he was only 17. Argento denied having any relationship with Bennett, although reporting surrounding a financial statement generated intense controversy. The separate case complicated her public role in the movement and led many people to reconsider how they viewed her. But a person being accused of wrongdoing does not automatically disprove a separate allegation that the person made previously. Both matters must be evaluated independently. Argento's story illustrates why discussions about abuse can't depend on the idea of a perfect victim. Human beings are complicated. People who report abuse can possess flaws, contradictions, and controversies of their own. The truth of an allegation must be examined through evidence, reporting, and legal standards, not through whether the person making the allegation appears morally flawless. While the Weinstein cases expose the vulnerability of adult performers, Hollywood's treatment of children reveals even more disturbing imbalance. Children enter the entertainment industry without legal power, emotional development, or professional independence of adults. They depend on parents, guardians, agents, studios, and filmmakers to protect them. Nathan Forrest Winters learns what could happen when those protections failed. Nathan was a child actor cast in the horror film Clown House. The film was directed by Victor Salva. During the production, Winters was a minor. Authorities later discovered evidence that Salva had SA'd Winters and recorded abusive material. Unlike many Hollywood allegations that never resulted in a criminal case, the abuse involving Winters led to a conviction. Salva pleaded guilty to offenses connected to the abuse and was sentenced to prison. He served only a portion of that sentence. For Winters, the legal conviction did not end the damage. He was described living with severe emotional consequences, including trauma and substance abuse. His childhood acting career ended. The man convicted of abusing him, however, eventually returned to filmmaking. Salva later directed Powder, Jeepers Creepers, and other productions. His return became a source of enormous controversy. It raised a disturbing question. How does Hollywood consider disqualifying? An industry that frequently claims to protect children continued providing professional opportunities to a filmmaker convicted of SA'ing a child actor. Some defended the idea that Salva had served his sentence and was legally entitled to rebuild his life. Others argued that allowing him to return to positions of authority on film sets demonstrated a shocking indifference to the safety and dignity of his victim. When Powder was released by Disney in '95, Winters publicly protested. The controversy forced the public to confront Salva's history, but Salva continued directing films afterward. Winters spent years trying to make people understand what had happened to him and what it meant to watch his abuser resume a successful career. His experience demonstrates how an industry's decisions can become a second form of betrayal. The original abuse was committed by one person, but the continued employment supported a normalization involved with a much larger network. Producers, financiers, distributors, and other decision makers had the power to determine who received opportunities. They also possessed the ability to consider what message those opportunities send to victims. Nathan Forrest Winters had a criminal conviction supporting the central facts of the case. Many survivors never received that level of legal confirmation. For others, decades passed before they publicly accused a powerful figure. By then, memories may be disputed, evidence may be limited, and the courts may become the only place where competing accounts are formally tested. That's what happened in this case involving Anthony Rapp and Kevin Spacey. Anthony Rapp began working professionally as a child. He later became widely known for originating the role of Mark Cohen in the Broadway musical Rent. In 2017, Rapp publicly accused actor Kevin Spacey for making an essay advance towards him in 1986. Rapp said he was 14 years old at the time. Spacey was 26. According to Rapp, he attended a gathering at Spacey's New York apartment. After the other guests left, Rapp alleged that Spacey picked him up, placed him on a bed, and climbed on top of him. Rapp said he was able to get away and leave the apartment. After the allegation became public, Spacey issued a statement saying he did not remember the encounter. Spacey said that if he had behaved as Rapp described, he owed him an apology for what would have been deeply inappropriate, drunken behavior. That statement generated additional controversy because Spacey also publicly came out as gay within the same response. Critics argued that combining the two announcements improperly linked homosexuality to an allegation involving a minor and shifted attention away from the Rapp claim. After Rapp spoke publicly, other men made allegations about Spacey. Netflix severed its professional relationship with him as he was removed from the cast of House of Cards. Director Ridley Scott also replaced Spacey in a completed film, All the Money in the World, reshooting his scenes with Christopher Plummer. Rapp later brought a civil lawsuit against Spacey. In 2022, a New York jury found that Rapp had not proven his claim, and Spacey was found not liable in a civil case. That verdict is an essential part of the story. Rapp made an allegation. Spacey denied the accusation in court. The court ruled in Spacey's favor. Reporting on the case responsibly requires acknowledging all three facts. The verdict did not mean Rapp was prosecuted for lying. It meant the jury did not find Spacey legally liable based on the evidence presented under the civil standard applied in that case. Spacey also faced separate criminal allegations in the United Kingdom and was acquitted. Those cases involved different accusers and must not be confused with Rapp's lawsuit. The broader reaction to Rapp's story transformed Spacey's career almost immediately. That response generated debate about how an entertainment industry should act when serious allegations emerge before a trial has taken place. Studios must consider employee safety, public trust, and financial risk. At the same time, allegations and legal findings are not identical. The Rapp case demonstrates the difficulty of reporting old allegations fairly. A documentary must allow a person to describe what he says happened while also clearly stating when a court has rejected a claim or found in favor of the accused. The balance is not about protecting powerful people from scrutiny, it's about protecting the truth from exaggeration. This next story is going to return us to Harvey Weinstein, but it reveals a form of alleged abuse that extended beyond a single encounter. For Salma Hayek, the battle involved years of pressure surrounding one of the most important projects of her career. Hayek spent years trying to bring the story of Mexican artist Frida Kahlo onto the screen. The project was deeply personal. Hayek did not simply want to play Kahlo. She wanted to create a serious film about a complex artist whose work, politics, pain, and identity had often been misunderstood. To make the film, Hayek entered a professional relationship with Miramax and Harvey Weinstein. In 2017, Hayek wrote that Weinstein reportedly harassed and intimidated her during development and production of Frida. According to Hayek, she reportedly told him no. She said no to showering with him. She said no to watching him shower. She said no to massages, and she said no to requests. Hayek wrote that each rejection was followed by increasing anger and retaliation. She alleged that Weinstein threatened to shut down Frida and placed extreme demands on the production. According to Hayek, the requirements included securing a recognized director, rewriting the script, raising additional money, and obtaining prominent actors for supporting roles. Hayek and her collaborators worked to meet the demands. The film moved forward, but Hayek said Weinstein then pressured her to include a nude sexual scene with another woman. Hayek has described experienced severe emotional and physical distress while filming the sequence. She believed that refusing could result in destruction of the entire project. Frida was released in 2002. The film received 6 Academy Award nominations, including a Best Actress nomination for Hayek, and won 2 Oscars. From the outside, the production appeared to be a triumph. Behind that success, Hayek said she endured years of harassment, intimidation, and humiliation. Weinstein disputed events of her account and said that his disagreements with Hayek involved creative and production concerns. There was no separate criminal judgment establishing that every event described by Hayek occurred exactly as she reported it. Her account remains her account, but it reveals an important form of alleged exploitation. A powerful executive does not need to explicitly say, "Give me what I want or your career is over." Power can operate through budgets, schedules, distribution, decisions, casting approvals, and threats to cancel projects. When the person making a sexual demand also controls whether a performer's dream survives, the idea of free choice becomes deeply complicated. Hayek completed Frida and delivered one of the most acclaimed performances of her career. but artistic success should not be used to romanticize suffering. The fact that a victim survives or produces exceptional work does not make the alleged mistreatment acceptable. Survival is not consent. Success is not evidence that no abuse occurred. An award does not erase the price someone may have to pay behind the scenes. This documentary exposes 10 cases in which Hollywood's power structures allegedly exploited, abused, silenced, controlled, or failed to protect performers. Together, their stories reveal the devastating human cost of an industry that too often prioritizes fame, profit, and influence over safety and dignity.